Go.
Romans 12, verse 2. And do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, so that you may prove what the will of God is, that which is good and acceptable and perfect. How many of you have family members who are not Christians? Most of you? I do too. My family is a little bit different than most. I have two half-siblings. One is 35 and one is 32. So they're quite a bit older than me. My sister was 16, I think, and my brother was 13, 14 when I was born. And so they kind of more or less raised me rather than, playing with me as a brother or sister would. And when I was starting to get a little bit older and I could start doing some things for myself, my sister, who didn't join the church when my parents did, she decided that she wanted to kind of get me into doing some things that she liked to do, some cool things, like listening to music and watching movies, different things like that. So I can remember when I was maybe 10, 11, 12, she got me into U2, Dave Matthews, the Beatles, first bands that I listened to. Some really good stuff that I really liked. And so I started to listen to that stuff, and I would think it was really cool because my older siblings listened to them, and I thought it was really awesome that I could do something that they were doing, I really looked up to them when I was younger. And I remember my mom didn't want us to watch many movies, but my sister took us downstairs in the basement and she let us watch Star Wars and different things like that. And we really got into this, me and my sister. And so as we started getting older and we started making more decisions for ourselves, we started to do this on our own and continue with the music and with the movies and different things like that. And one thing my sister also did was she would talk a lot about the rules that my mom made for us, and she would say a lot of things about, I don't really understand why she makes you guys do your devotions. I don't really understand why she makes you guys go to church. I don't really understand why you can't listen to music, watch movies, different things like this. And it started to make some thoughts form in my mind. A lot of times when I read this verse, I thought it was talking about strictly the world, going out into the world and going to a party, or going to the world and going to the theater, just something like that specifically had to do with the world. And I never really thought about it having to do with my own family. But the family, in my opinion, is the easiest place to stray from the world, because those who are closest to you can have the biggest impact on your life. You look up to your siblings, you look up to your parents, and if they're not doing something that's according to the Bible, the principles of the Bible, then it's easy to get distracted. As I grew older and I started to kind of come back to the biblical principles, and I started to make my own decisions on how I was going to live my life, I realized that my sister and those in my family who aren't of the faith were the people that I needed to reach the most. I'd gone out and done mission trips and different things like that, but I realized that the mission field was now in my own home. And I saw this very thought-provoking video at a conference, and it was, this man went out to the street and he asked everyone, who do you think Christ is? What do you think of Christ? Who was he? Just a general question. And they said, well, Christ, he was a good man, he walked on the earth, he did miracles, he taught really great things. And then the same man went to those same people and said, well, what do you think about Christians? And they said, well, these people, they're hypocrites. They don't act like Christ would have acted. If he was here, they probably wouldn't be his followers, just different things like that. And it really made me think, am I living my life as Christ would? And I found this verse in 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 21. And it says, for you have been called for this purpose, since Christ also suffered for you, leaving you an example for you to follow in his footsteps. And, Christ, he led his life here on earth as the perfect example. But as Christians, we have an obligation, we have a duty to follow in his footsteps and to be an example to those around us. And, we can go off to faraway countries, we can go on these different mission trips, but until we've witnessed to the people in our own home, our work is not finished. We need to start in our own home. When Christ was on earth, the first place he went to was where? He did reach out to his family, and I think that that's something that is often overlooked in mission work, is that we think that we need to go off to these faraway places, but when in reality, it's our own homes that we need to witness to in the first place.